The year 500 settles over Western Europe like a soft gray veil, neither fully dark nor fully illuminated. The old Roman world has fallen away, but its ghost still clings to the land, in broken roads threading through forests, in stone bridges holding their arch against rivers, in half-collapsed villas whose mosaic floors now lie beneath moss and drifting leaves. Life here is quiet, rural, intimate. Most people never see a city, never travel more than a few valleys away. The centers of Roman administration, the great stone complexes where tax collectors once tallied grain and livestock, sit empty, their courtyards echoing only with rooks and sparrows. Now, power is local, personal, fragile. Villages cluster around patches of farmland, wheat, rye, barley, oats. Fields are small, fenced by low stone walls or thorn hedges, and worked by families who know the soil like a relative, its moods, its stubbornness, its secrets. Oxen pull wooden plows that creak like old ships. Children chase chickens through muddy courtyards. Smoke from hearth fires drifts gently through thatched rooftops. To most people, Rome is no longer a place. It is a memory whispered by elders. The legions are gone. The baths are cold. The aqueducts crumble where no mason repairs them. Yet the people still use Roman words: strata for the roads, castra for the old forts, villa for a sprawling farmhouse whose owner barely remembers the Latin. His grandfather spoke Latin is fading into new shapes, sliding toward the Romance languages that will one day define the region. Across Gaul, the Franks are rising. They are not yet a mighty kingdom, nor a fixed nation, but a loose collection of chieftains bound by alliances, marriages, oaths, and opportunity. Villagers hear rumors of a war here, a crowning there, but life remains mostly untouched. What matters is the harvest, the arrival of spring, the safety of livestock, the sway of a local lord whose wooden hall sits on a small rise above the village. In the former province of Britannia, life is harsher still. The Romans left a century ago, and the island feels like a ship cut loose from its anchor. Small kingdoms rise and fall. Britons, Angles, Saxons, Jutes, all jostling for land and survival. Wooden palisades ring the hill forts. The nights are long and cold. Bardic songs tell of ancient heroes, while new battles carve fresh stories into memory. Trade exists, but feels thin, trembling. A few merchants move between settlements with iron tools, salt or spices that seem too exotic for such a quiet world. Roads are less safe than they were in Roman times, so every journey carries weight, risk, hope, the possibility of never returning. Religion is in motion, a river widening. Christianity spreads slowly, sometimes embraced, sometimes resisted, sometimes layered atop older customs rather than replacing them. Churches are small, wooden, and intimate. Priests walk from hamlet to hamlet, learning the fears and rituals of their flock, adapting to them more than reshaping them. Winter is the great equalizer. Families huddle around hearths, listening to the wind carry the sound of wolves across dark fields. Those with enough grain to last until spring are fortunate. Those without must stretch their stores or rely on neighbors. Community is survival. Isolation is death. Yet in the quiet fields and fog-draped valleys, something new is taking shape. A Europe that is no longer Roman, but not yet medieval. A world that feels abandoned yet full of possibility. A world where identity is local. Where life is hard but meaningful. Where every sunrise feels like the start of another chapter in a story yet to be defined. The year 500 is not the end of something. It is the slow, patient beginning of something else. While Western Europe drifts in the quiet aftermath of Rome's fall, the eastern half of the old empire stands bright and resilient, its heart beating within the walls of Constantinople, a city so immense, so layered, so alive that it feels like the world compressed into stone and gold. From a distance, Constantinople rises from the waters like a monument to human stubbornness. Its sea walls gleam in the sun, its harbors churn with traffic, merchant vessels, grain ships from Egypt, sleek war galleys in imperial colors. The city hums with activity day and night. Metal workers, perfume sellers, scribes, beggars, priests, merchants from places as far as Persia, Syria, the Balkans, and the steppes. The streets echo with languages braided together: Greek, Latin, Armenian, Syriac, Coptic, Gothic. Here life feels ordered, almost rhythmic. The empire still collects taxes, maintains a standing army, drafts laws, repairs aqueducts, feeds the poor, trains scholars, and oversees courts where legal arguments stretch on for hours under the flicker of oil lamps. People know that power is fragile, that threats press in from all sides, yet the state seems determined to endure, and often does. In the year 500, the Eastern Roman Empire isn't nostalgic for a lost Rome. It is Rome, reshaped. Greek is becoming the language of daily life, but Latin still clings to the law and the army, two pillars too ancient to collapse quickly. Senators still meet. The imperial bureaucracy still moves like a vast, slow river of scrolls, decrees, and stamped wax seals. Daily life is a mosaic of contrasts. Wealthy households enjoy marble courtyards, silks imported from the East, and meals spiced with cinnamon and cloves. Their floors are cool in summer, their fountains whispering under the shade of grapevines. Scholars debate philosophy in small lecture halls. Priests copy manuscripts in scriptoria. Lawyers haggle over points of Roman law set down centuries earlier. But most people live differently. In crowded tenements, in lower stone houses clustered together, in neighborhoods defined by craft, religion, and lineage. Bakers rise before dawn. Artisans hammer metal, shape glass, carve icons. Fishermen mend nets at the water's edge while shouting gossip across the docks. Religion saturates everything. Christianity is now the dominant current shaping identity. The church is not yet fully unified, and theological debates ripple across the empire like storms. Bishops argue over doctrines with passion that could rival political disputes. Ordinary people participate in small gestures, lighting candles, kissing icons, praying in quiet chapels tucked beside busy markets. Beyond Constantinople lies a Mediterranean threaded with routes that pulse with trade and culture. In Anatolia, villages cling to hillsides where farmers tend olive groves that have been harvested for generations. Shepherds move flocks across fields in routines older than the empire itself. Syria and Palestine are vibrant with scholarship, pilgrimage, and trade. Caravans arrive from the desert, loaded with spices, incense, ivory, and textiles. Cities like Antioch and Alexandria still hold reputations as centers of learning, though both have faced earthquakes, fires, and political turmoil. Egypt remains the empire's breadbasket. Along the Nile, farmers depend on the river's annual flood, just as their ancestors did. They harvest grain, press oil, and gather papyrus. Their villages echo with Coptic prayers layered over ancient customs, neither fully Roman nor fully Hellenistic, but something uniquely their own. Life in the Eastern Mediterranean is not easy, nor perfectly stable. There are tensions, rivalries, and fears, the rising power of Persia, raids from steppe nomads, earthquakes, cholera, schemes within the palace walls. But compared to the fractured West, this world feels structured, luminous, connected. There is a sense that history still flows here, that something ancient has survived the storms. People walk beneath the great domes of basilicas still under construction, unaware that future centuries will see them as wonders. Bureaucrats copy records that will one day be forgotten. Fishermen haul nets from waters that will shape empires yet unborn. The year 500 in the East is a reminder. Some civilizations do not collapse. They transform, rebuild, and carry their memory forward. In the heart of the continent, where high plateaus meet vast deserts and mountains rise like ancient guardians, the Sasanian Empire stands as a world unto itself, confident, elegantly ordered, and fiercely proud. In the year 500, Persia is not a shadow of Rome or Byzantium. It is a rival, a mirror, and in many ways a civilization that sees itself as older, sharper, and more enduring. From the moment you cross its borders, you feel the shift. The architecture changes. Tall gateways carved with reliefs of kings and divine beings, fire temples glowing with sacred flames, stone cities that blend desert austerity with the surprising softness of gardens, canals, and courtyards. The air smells faintly of dry earth, incense, and distant orchards. This is a land defined by contrasts, scorching deserts and snow-capped mountains, nomadic herders and urban elites, mystical rituals and practical administration. And at its center stands an idea that kingship is not merely political but cosmic, a bridge between the divine and the mortal world. In the capital at Ctesiphon, life feels grand and ceremonial. The great arched palace hall, the Tak Kasra, rises higher than anything the Western world can yet imagine, its brick vault curving above courtyards where peacocks wander beneath shade trees. Courtiers move with careful grace, their robes long and richly dyed. Diplomats arrive from Byzantium, bringing gifts and bargaining positions. Scribes record each gesture, each treaty, each subtle shift of power. The court is alive with strategy. Persia and Byzantium eye each other across frontiers, each believing itself the heir to the world's rightful order. Their rivalry shapes policy, troop movements, and the pulse of every frontier settlement along the Euphrates. But beyond the court's polish, everyday life continues in rhythms old enough to feel eternal. Farmers tend wheat, barley and pomegranate orchards nourished by intricate canal systems. Shepherds guide flocks across mountain pastures, their calls echoing across valleys. Traders lead caravans along the Silk Road, carrying silk, spices, gems, and stories. Always stories. Zoroastrian fire temples stand at the heart of communities. The sacred flame burns continuously, tended by priests who memorize hymns and rituals passed down through generations. Religion here intertwines with identity. Purity laws, seasonal festivals, and community rites all shape the texture of life. Even those who follow Christianity, Judaism, or older Mesopotamian beliefs often borrow bits of Zoroastrian practice: light, fire, the turning of the seasons. Cities are busy, layered worlds. Craftsmen work copper, silver, and gold into delicate jewelry. Weavers create tapestries so intricate that foreign rulers treasure them as royal gifts. Physicians study herbal remedies and ancient treatises. Philosophers debate texts from Greece, India, and beyond. For Persia lies at a crossroads of knowledge where ideas flow as freely as goods. The empire governs through a network of noble families, the Wuzurgan, whose loyalty is expected but always uncertain. Their estates are vast, their influence enormous. They maintain cavalry forces, the pride of Persia. Horsemen clad in armor, both rider and mount encased in metal plates, embody the empire's power. On the battlefield, they move like living fortresses. Outside the cities, life can be harsh. Desert villages depend on water channels that must be constantly maintained. Nomadic tribes navigate seasonal routes, living in woven tents, raising sheep, goats, and hardy horses. They move under skies so enormous that the stars seem to curve down toward the earth. Persia in the year 500 is a place of confidence and quiet tension. It knows its own depth. It remembers empires older than Rome. It carries myths etched into mountainsides. Yet it also feels the weight of enemies, ambitions, and faiths shifting like sand beneath its feet. But if you stand at dusk along the Tigris, as the last light touches the palace arch and the river turns to bronze, you sense something enduring. An empire whose identity flows through stone, ritual, and memory. Persia does not see itself as one power among many. It sees itself as the backbone of the world. And in this moment, in this year, much of the world agrees. In the broad, fertile sweep of the subcontinent, where monsoon rains feed rice paddies and great rivers bend like silver serpents across the plains, the world of Gupta India unfolds with a gentleness and a sophistication unique to its time. In the year 500, the Gupta world is not a single unified empire anymore. Its political edges have begun to fray, but its cultural radiance shines undimmed, casting a warm glow across scholarship, art, mathematics, and daily life. This is a place where kingdoms rise and recede like tides, yet the fabric of society remains steady, woven from village customs, temple routines, and the deep rhythms of the land. Most people live close to their fields, planting rice, wheat, sugarcane, and lentils in rich soils shaped by centuries of irrigation. Palm trees sway beside small ponds. Women draw water from wells lined with baked brick. Children chase goats through courtyards. Life at the village level is practical, self-contained, and intimate. But the cities are something else. In centers like Pataliputra and Ujjain, streets pulse with complexity. Market squares display bright textiles dyed in indigo, and madder-root goldsmiths engrave intricate jewelry, while sculptors carve sandstone statues of deities with serene faces. Musicians perform ragas in open courtyards. Scholars debate astronomy and the nature of consciousness under shaded colonnades. Here, knowledge feels like a living force, not something kept in dusty rooms, but woven into the very atmosphere. The decimal system is being refined. Astronomers calculate planetary orbits with precision unmatched elsewhere in the world. Poets compose sweeping epics in Sanskrit. Medicine flourishes in the hands of physicians who understand herbs, surgery, and anatomy with remarkable sophistication. Temples rise above the bustle, with carvings so detailed they seem to breathe. Inside, devotees light lamps that flicker against stone walls. Priests chant hymns passed down through unbroken memory. Hindu traditions are strong. Stories of Krishna, Vishnu, Shiva, and Devi circulate in songs and murals. But Buddhism and Jainism also shape the spiritual landscape. Monks walk roads connecting monasteries, carrying sutras, teaching travelers, sharing ideas that drift across regions like dust carried by warm winds. Along the Ganges, boats glide between trading towns. Merchants carry pepper, cardamom, ivory, and cotton to distant shores. The subcontinent's wealth is not based only on gold or gems, but on knowledge, agriculture, and the movement of people who exchange ideas as readily as goods. Even in the palaces, where courtiers wear fine cotton robes and jeweled ornaments, life feels less militaristic than in other empires. Dance, literature, astronomy, and mathematics hold real prestige. Kings sponsor scholars as eagerly as they sponsor soldiers. Court poets record victories, defeats, and philosophical musings with the same care. Yet beyond this brilliance, shadows gather. The empire's unity is weakening. Northern borders face pressures from migrating tribes. Regional rulers assert independence. But for ordinary people, these shifts are distant echoes. The rice still needs planting. The rains still come. The temples still ring with bells every dawn. If you stand on a riverbank at sunrise in the year 500, watching orange light spill across the Ganges, you feel a sense of continuity, a civilization rooted in cycles older than kingdoms. Here, time moves differently. Knowledge accumulates like grains of sand forming a vast shoreline. Life is full, textured, balanced between the earthly and the divine. This is a world where people look at the stars not with fear, but with curiosity, believing that the universe is knowable, beautiful, and interconnected. A world where the mind itself is a frontier. In Gupta India, the year 500 is not just a point in history. It is a flowering. Across the eastern horizon, where mountains fold like ink-washed brushstrokes and rivers bend through deep valleys, the world of northern Wei China takes shape, a land balancing elegance and upheaval, tradition and transformation. In the year 500, China is not a single empire. It is a patchwork of kingdoms shaped by migration, reform, and a determination to reclaim order from centuries of fragmentation. The Northern Wei dynasty stands at the center of this moment. Its rulers are of Xianbei origin, a people from the steppe whose ancestors rode horses across open plains. Yet by 500 they are deeply intertwined with the culture of the Han heartlands. Their court is a place of blending, where nomadic heritage meets Chinese philosophy, where steppe-style braids coexist with silk robes, and where emperors sponsor grand reforms aimed at unifying a diverse population. In the capital city of Luoyang, the streets buzz with activity. Stone walls rise high, guarding markets filled with tea, bronze tools, lacquerware, and bolts of silk dyed in rich blues and reds. Scribes hurry toward government offices carrying bundles of bamboo slips. Monks walk through the gates with calm purpose. High courtiers glide in elaborate robes embroidered with clouds and cranes. The city feels both ancient and forward-looking. At its heart lies a shift in identity. The Northern Wei are pushing toward a unified script, unified clothing styles, a unified bureaucracy. They want to bind the North together in one cultural fabric. This creates friction, but also a sense of possibility. Religion here feels like a pulse running beneath daily life. Buddhism is flourishing with an intensity unmatched anywhere else on earth at this moment. Monasteries rise on hillsides. Carved caves, vast, echoing chambers, are filled with statues of the Buddha, each chiseled from stone with devotion that spans generations. The Yungang and Longmen cave temples, illuminated by torchlight, glow like gateways into another world. Monks translate sacred texts from Sanskrit into Chinese, line by line, preserving ideas that will echo across centuries. Pilgrims travel great distances to visit shrines, carrying offerings of incense and flowers. Artisans carve wooden statues for home altars. The empire is reshaped not by conquest alone, but by the spread of a philosophy that teaches compassion, impermanence, and the pursuit of enlightenment. Beyond the capital, life unfolds in quieter rhythms. Farmers rise before dawn to work millet, wheat, and rice fields that depend on complex irrigation systems. Oxen plod along furrows. Women weave silk in shaded courtyards. Children chase each other across village lanes, lined with mud brick homes. Life in these small communities is steeped in ritual. Seasonal festivals, ancestor offerings, shared meals, and songs passed down along family lines. On the northern frontier, the world changes again. Here, the line between settled farmers and steppe tribes feels thin. Riders move across grassy plains with bows slung at their sides, their horses quick and hardy trade. Conflict and diplomacy intertwine as nomadic groups interact with the empire's edges. The Northern Wei remember their nomadic past, and though the court pushes for assimilation, the frontier still carries echoes of old ways. Open skies, fast horses, a culture shaped by movement rather than walls. China in the year 500 is a world of thresholds, a place where old dynasties lie buried but remembered, where new reforms attempt to reshape society, where Buddhism expands its reach while Confucianism remains the quiet backbone of governance, where steppe and Song meet, merge, and clash in ways that will define the centuries to come. If you walk along the banks of the Luo River at sunset, watching the city walls glow gold as the light fades, you feel the stillness beneath the change. Northern Wei China is not yet the empire it will become, but it is becoming something. A civilization in motion, a world refining itself. And in this turning point, you sense the depth of a culture that endures storms not by resisting change, but by absorbing it. Across the eastern edge of the continent, where rugged coastlines meet deep forests and volcanic mountains rise through shifting clouds, the worlds of the Korean Peninsula and early Japan take form. Two regions shaped by kinship, exchange, ritual, and the quiet persistence of tradition. In the year 500, the Korean Peninsula is divided into three powerful kingdoms, Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla. Each holds its own identity, its own strengths, its own shimmering center of gravity. The balance between them is delicate, shaped by alliances, rivalries, and the influence of neighboring China. Goguryeo dominates the north, a land of mountains and fortresses. Its warriors are famed for their skill, riding horses through steep passes where fortification walls snake along ridges like stone dragons, towns cluster in valleys, and farmers work narrow terraces carved into slopes. Aristocrats wear heavy robes lined with fur against the cold winds that sweep down from Manchuria. Life here feels austere, proud, shaped by a kingdom that has learned to endure. To the southwest, Baekje thrives along the river plains and coasts. Its cities feel refined, cosmopolitan, connected. The court exchanges envoys with China, and distant Yamato Japan craftsmen shape lacquerware, delicate jewelry, and pottery with subtle curves. Baekje's scholars study Chinese texts, blending continental knowledge with local customs. Its temples rise with elegant wooden architecture, early centers of Buddhism glowing with quiet devotion. Farther southeast, Silla is growing in strength, a kingdom of deep valleys, villages tucked among forested mountains, and a nobility defined by strict hereditary ranks, gold crowns with tree-like branches, found in burial mounds. Hint at a society where ritual, ancestry, and symbol carry immense power. Silla's Buddhist influence is spreading. Monks travel its roads, chanting sutras and founding temples where the sound of wooden gongs carries through morning mist. Everyday life across the peninsula feels balanced between nature and community. Farmers cultivate rice in the southern plains, millet and barley in the north. Fishing villages line the coasts where boats carved from a single pine trunk glide into fog-covered seas. Festivals mark the seasons, dances around bonfires, offerings to mountain spirits, songs celebrating harvests. People live close to the land, and the land shapes their world. Across the sea, the archipelago of early Japan, the Yamato polity, is emerging like a cluster of islands rising from myth. The year 500 is a time of slow consolidation, when powerful clans weave alliances, and the figure of the Yamato ruler gains authority grounded in ritual, lineage, and the belief that the imperial line descends from the sun itself. Villages here feel ancient and rooted. Houses with thatched roofs sit beside irrigated rice paddies. Families work communal fields, their routines guided by the rhythm of planting and harvest. Shinto practices flourish. simple, natural, intimate. People leave offerings at sacred trees, waterfalls, and large stones believed to house the spirits of the land. But change is arriving across the water. Buddhism is beginning its ascent, carried from Baekje to Yamato through gifts of sutras, monks, and statues. The new faith does not replace the old. It sits beside it, reshaping aesthetics, inspiring temple building, influencing court rituals in ways that will echo for centuries. The earliest temple complexes begin to take form. Wooden halls, wide eaves, courtyards enclosed by long outer galleries. Artistry flourishes. Potters craft haniwa, earthenware figures placed around burial mounds, shaped as warriors, animals, houses, and dancers, their simple forms echoing a world of myth and memory. Smiths experiment with iron tools and weapons. Storytellers recite oral histories that will one day be written into chronicles. Trade threads both regions together. Boats cross narrow straits carrying silk, lacquerware, iron, and ideas. Envoys share scrolls, technologies, styles of architecture. A cultural bridge stretches from China to Korea to Japan, not imposed, but flowing, blending, adapting. If you stand on a Korean cliff overlooking the sea at dusk, or on a Japanese beach at dawn with waves foaming around volcanic stones, you feel the same sense of transition, a world on the threshold. Ancient traditions continue to anchor daily life, but new faiths, new technologies, and new political shapes are forming beneath the surface. In the year 500, Korea and Japan are not yet the nations they will become. They are landscapes of beginnings, quiet, intricate, evolving, where mountains, seas, and spirits shape destinies still young. Across the horn of the continent, where highland plateaus rise like islands above a sea of heat, the kingdom of Aksum stands proud. A crossroads of civilizations, a realm of stone obelisks, bustling ports, and mountain breezes that carry the scent of incense and cattle grass. In the year 500, Aksum is a vibrant, confident power, trading across the Red Sea, ruling fertile highlands, and shaping a culture unlike any other. Approaching from the coast, the first thing you feel is contrast. The lowlands are hot, arid, sunstruck, a land of acacia trees, camels, salt caravans, and dust. But as you climb inland toward the highlands, the air cools. The landscape turns green. Terraced farms cling to slopes. Rivers carve deep valleys. Villages sit beside fields of teff and barley. Life here feels anchored, resilient, molded by altitude and ancient memory. In the Aksumite heartland, stone speaks. Massive granite stelae, some towering like silent guardians, rise from the earth. These carved obelisks are markers of royal tombs, feats of engineering unmatched in the region. Their surfaces are etched with patterns that imitate multi-story palaces. Doors, windows, beams, the architecture of the living world, translated into the monuments of the dead. Nearby, the city of Aksum hums with daily motion. Traders lead camels loaded with ivory, frankincense, gold, obsidian, and animal hides. Artisans hammer metal tools and cast bronze ornaments. Farmers bring baskets of grain into the markets. Priests read liturgy in the ancient language of Ge'ez, their voices echoing across courtyards shaded by fig and sycamore trees. Christianity is now the soul of the kingdom. Introduced in the 4th century, it has taken deep root. Stone churches dot the highlands, built with wooden beams that slot into thick walls, giving them the appearance of fortress chapels. Murals depict saints with almond-shaped eyes. Crosses carved from basalt hang in doorways for protection. Festivals blend liturgical rituals with older local customs. feasting, drumming, dancing, and torchlit processions that move through the night like rivers of fire. Yet, Axum is not isolated. Its ports connect Africa to Arabia, Persia, and India. The city of Adulis, on the Red Sea, is a hub of global exchange. Ships from distant worlds arrive with spices, textiles, wine, and Eastern ceramics. Sailors navigate by stars and monsoon winds. Markets bustle in multiple languages. Ideas move as easily as commodities. The highlands and lowlands coexist in a delicate dance. Highland farmers grow grain, herd cattle, and build stone houses that stay cool during the day. Lowland pastoralists guide herds of goats and camels across dry plains, following seasonal grazing routes. Their cultures intertwine through trade and shared ancestry, yet remain distinct in rhythm and worldview. To the south and west, dense forests and savannas stretch for miles, home to thriving local communities with their own traditions, their own tools, their own ways of living. Knowledge travels through story, through craft, through cattle, through lineage. Iron smelting, beadwork, ritual dances, initiation ceremonies, all form a tapestry of life that connects people to ancestors and land. Axum in the year 500 feels alive with movement. It is a kingdom anchored in stone, yet driven by wind and water. Its rulers mint coins with crosses on one side and royal faces on the other, symbols of faith and power intertwined. Its scribes record royal genealogies. Its merchants map monsoon cycles. Its farmers trust in rains that come each year like blessings. If you walk along a terraced hillside at sunset, watching the highlands glow gold beneath a vast sky, you sense a civilization that knows itself deeply, proud, adaptive, connected. A world where history rises from the earth in carved stone, where faith shapes identity, where trade links continents, and where daily life folds into the rhythms of mountains and wind. In year 500, Axum is not a hidden kingdom. It is a beacon, a bridge between worlds. Deep within the vast landscapes of West Africa, where rainforests thicken into green walls, where savannas roll toward distant horizons, and where great rivers move like living arteries through the land, the year 500 reveals a world rich in complexity, rhythm, and quiet sophistication. This is not yet the era of Ghana's imperial zenith, nor of the great medieval kingdoms that historians often highlight, but the foundations are forming communities, chiefdoms, and emerging states weave trade networks that span hundreds of miles. Cultural traditions deepen. Metallurgy advances, agriculture expands along river valleys. Life here is vibrant, textured, and anchored in long-standing patterns of kinship and environment. The region stretches from the Senegal River in the west to the Niger Bend in the east, each landscape shaping the people who inhabit it. Along the Niger River. The Niger is the great connector, a river that curves like a crescent moon through the interior. Villages sit along its banks, where farmers cultivate sorghum, millet, yams, and rice. Fishing communities glide across the water in long wooden canoes, using nets and spears. Children play along the shallows. Women gather clay to make pottery adorned with geometric patterns. Some settlements are beginning to grow into towns, especially near places like Djenné, one of the oldest urban centers in sub-Saharan Africa. Here, life feels remarkably organized. Mud brick houses cluster around markets. Blacksmiths hammer iron tools, potters fire ceramics in circular kilns, and traders gather goods from faraway regions, salt from the Sahara, cola nuts from the forests, copper from distant mines. People do not call this a kingdom yet, but the seeds of statehood are sprouting. across the savannas. In the wide open grasslands dotted with acacia trees, cattle herding shapes life. Pastoralists move with the seasons, following pasture and water. Their society is mobile, flexible, and deeply tied to livestock. Not just for food, but for identity, wealth, marriage, and diplomacy. Here, ironworking is a revered craft. Smiths heat ore in clay furnaces, bellows pumping rhythmically, sparks illuminating the night. Iron knives, hoes, spearheads, and bracelets circulate across regions, strengthening trade ties and shaping economies long before any centralized state arises. In the forest zones. Farther south, the world changes. The rainforest canopy blocks the sky. Air hangs heavy with moisture and the scent of leaves. Villages sit on cleared patches where banana groves, oil palm stands, and yam fields thrive. Hunters move quietly through the trees, listening for the calls of monkeys and hornbills. Drums echo between trunks, signals for gatherings, rituals, and storytelling. Carved wooden masks speak to a spiritual world woven into daily life. Ancestors are honored. Spirits of forests and rivers are seen as guardians that must be respected. Seasonal festivals blend dance, sculpture, music, and costume into experiences that feel both sacred and communal. Trade, the invisible highway. Though no empire dominates the region in this moment, long-distance trade pulses across West Africa like a hidden grid. Caravans travel across the southern edges of the Sahara, carrying salt, copper, textiles, and beads. River routes move goods from forest to savanna to desert. Communities specialize: fishing villages, blacksmith settlements, farming towns, each contributing to a network older than many written histories. By the year 500, gold is beginning to trickle northward, not yet in the volumes that will shape global economies centuries later, but enough to hint at futures waiting just beyond the horizon. Daily life. Daily life feels grounded and communal. Meals revolve around grains, root vegetables, and grilled fish. Houses are built from earth, wood, and grass. Families weave baskets, craft pottery, repair nets, raise children, and share songs in the cool evening air. There is hardship, droughts, shifting rivers, illness, but also resilience. Knowledge is passed through generations: how to read the land, how to heal with plants, how to shape iron, how to honor ancestors, how to navigate by stars and memory. A world becoming. West Africa in the year 500 is not a region on the margins. It is a world forming itself with patience, a world whose rivers, forests, and savannas hold the beginnings of civilizations that will one day influence continents. If you stand on the Niger's bank at sunset, fireflies drifting above the reeds, the silhouette of fishermen casting their nets against the orange glow, you sense a civilization emerging from the quiet strength of its land, a world rich, long before its history is written down. Across the vast sweep of the Americas, from the rainforests of Mesoamerica to the high valleys of the Andes, the year 500 reveals worlds of astonishing complexity. Civilizations rise here not in the shadows of Eurasian empires, but through their own long, steady evolution. Their stories are written in stone plazas, terraced mountainsides, painted codices, and the agricultural genius that allows life to flourish in landscapes both lush and unforgiving. This is a moment of quiet brilliance, a time before famous collapses, before legends harden into history, before the known world widens. Here, societies are refined, adaptive, deeply rooted in place. Cities rise like green islands above jungle canopies. Mountain terraces climb into clouds. Ritual and astronomy weave through every aspect of life. The Maya, cities in the forest. In the Maya lowlands, the forest hums with life, cicadas, parrots, jaguars moving in shadows. And among the broadleaf trees stand cities of remarkable ambition. In the year 500, Tikal, Calakmul, Copan, Uxmal, and other centers are well established, thriving hubs of stone temples, royal dynasties, and astronomical precision. Their pyramids rise above the canopy like watchtowers of another world, their steps steep and narrow, their summits crowned with shrines painted in deep reds and blues. Life here is deeply urban, yet intimately tied to the land. Farmers cultivate maize, beans, squash, and cacao in fields outside the cities or in forest gardens that mimic natural ecosystems. Water is precious, especially in the central lowlands where rivers are scarce. Reservoirs, canals, and engineered depressions collect and store rainfall, impressive feats of hydrological ingenuity. Rulers are more than political leaders. They are mediators between gods and humans, walking embodiments of celestial cycles. They consult astronomer priests who track Venus, the moon, and the stars with extraordinary accuracy. Scribes record histories in glyphs on stone stelae and bark paper codices. Weavers craft brilliant textiles. Artists carve jade masks that glow like captured fragments of the sky. The city is rhythm itself. Festivals, corn harvests, ball games, rituals, trade caravans, markets full of obsidian blades, feathers, shells, salt, honey, and brightly painted pottery. Even the forest seems to pulse in time with the calendar's sacred cycles. The Zapotec, guardians of the Oaxaca highlands. Far to the west, in the highlands of Oaxaca, the Zapotec world centers around the ancient city of Monte Alban, a mountaintop capital built atop leveled ridges, overlooking valleys carved by wind and time. In the year 500, Monte Alban remains influential, though its political power is slowly shifting. Its plazas stretch wide beneath open skies. Palaces, tombs, temples, and ball courts stand in quiet geometric elegance. The city feels airy, spacious, a contrast to the dense forests of the Maya lowlands. In nearby valleys, villages cultivate maize, agave, beans, and chili peppers. Artisans produce fine ceramics with polished surfaces and complex motifs. Stone carvers shape expressive figures and glyphs. Trade routes connect the region to the wider Mesoamerican world. Cacao from the south, obsidian from distant quarries, shells from coastal settlements. Daily life is shaped by communal labor, ritual gatherings, and the agricultural cycle. People grind maize by hand on stone metats. Children play near terraces. Smoke drifts from household hearths at dawn. The highland air feels thin, clean, and ancient. The Andes, mountains of engineering and memory. Southward, the Andes rise like the spine of a world. Valleys cling to mountainsides. Clouds drift across peaks. Rivers carve deep gorges. And here, long before the Inca Empire, powerful Andean societies thrive with their own distinct achievements. In the year 500, the Moche dominate the northern Peruvian coast, a culture of desert kingdoms sustained by intricate irrigation canals. Their temples of mud brick, the Huaca del Sol and Huaca de la Luna, rise like eroded mountains. Pottery depicts daily life with stunning realism. Warriors, weavers, fishermen, priests, metalworkers craft gold ornaments using early soldering techniques. Farmers coax crops from some of the driest land on earth. Farther south, the Nazca draw vast geoglyphs across desert plains. Lines, animals, shapes visible only from hillsides or imagined vantage points. Their textiles burst with color, and their irrigation systems, the puquios, bring underground water to fields through spiraling stone channels. And high in the Andean interior, societies in the Tiwanaku region around Lake Titicaca begin to spread influence. Their stonework is crisp, geometrically perfect. Their agriculture relies on raised field systems that protect crops from frost. They domesticate llamas and alpacas, turning mountains into well-traveled highways of trade. A hemisphere alive with innovation. Across the Americas, life in year 500 is dynamic. Cities rise organically. Agriculture adapts to every environment: desert, plateau, forest, mountain, coast. Trade routes stretch farther than many imagine. Knowledge passes through hands rather than written alphabets. Stories, rituals, designs, astronomical observations, specialized techniques honed across generations. If you stand atop a Maya pyramid at dawn, or among Zapotec terraces as mists lift from the valley, or on an Andean ridge watching llamas move in single-file lines, you feel it deeply. A world thriving in its own brilliance, its own silence, its own sense of time. Civilization here is not waiting to be discovered. It is already in full bloom. Across the blue immensity of the Pacific and the vast interior of the Australian continent, the year 500 reveals worlds shaped not by stone cities or imperial capitals, but by movement, memory, stars, and land. These are civilizations rooted in navigation, oral wisdom, ritual, and the deep relationship between people and environment. Societies whose brilliance lies not in monuments, but in the mastery of some of the most challenging landscapes on Earth. Polynesia, the ocean as homeland. In the year 500, the Polynesian world is expanding across the Pacific with breathtaking boldness. Voyagers steer double-hulled canoes through open ocean guided not by maps or compasses, but by an inherited science of wind, wave, bird, and star. The islands now settled span a staggering range: Samoa, Tonga, the Society Islands, the Marquesas, and many smaller atolls scattered across thousands of miles of water. Each island is a world unto itself. Lush volcanic slopes, coral reefs, breadfruit groves, taro terraces, and villages nestled against lagoons that shimmer like liquid jade. Daily life revolves around community and carefully maintained harmony with nature. People cultivate taro in irrigated pits, harvest breadfruit and bananas, fish with nets woven from plant fibers, and craft outrigger canoes with curved hulls. Designed to cut across surf with elegance, coconut palms sway over sandy paths. Smoke drifts from earth ovens where meals are steamed in banana leaves. Social life is defined by kinship networks and chieftainships. Genealogies stretch back centuries, anchoring identity in ancestral voyages. Oral tradition is the library of the islands. Stories, chants, and rituals that carry history across generations. Nothing is written, yet nothing is forgotten. But the heart of Polynesian innovation lies in navigation. Master navigators learn to read subtle patterns: the angle of swells, the flight paths of seabirds, the color of the water, the way clouds gather above unseen reefs. At night, the stars become a map. Constellations rising and setting along predictable paths. Navigators memorize thousands of miles of routes, reciting them like long poems. In the year 500, future journeys to Hawaii, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and Rapa Nui are still centuries ahead. But the knowledge that will make them possible is already alive, already growing in the minds of sailors who feel the ocean as intimately as breath. Australia, the oldest continuity on Earth. Across the Coral Sea, the Australian continent unfolds in vast diversity. Deserts glowing red under the sun, monsoon forests dense with life, coastal plains carved by rivers, and mountains catching drifting clouds. Here, Indigenous Australians live within one of the longest unbroken cultural traditions in human history. In the year 500, people continue seasonal cycles established tens of thousands of years earlier, hunting kangaroo and emu, gathering yams and berries, fishing tidal flats, setting deliberate fire mosaics that renew grasslands and shape ecosystems. Everywhere, land is story. Through intricate songlines, pathways of myth and memory, people navigate immense distances, connecting sacred sites, waterholes, and ancestral events. Songs are maps, dance is history, art is cosmology, rendered in ochre and charcoal, on rock shelters, bark and skin. Communities live in flexible, mobile patterns shaped by climate and resources. Shelters vary from region to region. Bark lean-tos in forests, windbreaks in deserts, stone arrangements in cooler highlands. Knowledge is passed through ceremony, through kinship obligations, through elders who recite creation stories that bind people to land in a relationship both practical and spiritual. Coastal regions bustle with abundance, shellfish, fish traps made of stone, dugout canoes carved from eucalyptus trunks. In the north, contact with seafaring peoples from Southeast Asia will come in later centuries. But in the year 500, the world remains mostly defined by local continuity. There is no desire for empire, no towering monuments, no cities. Instead, the land itself is the monument, the text, the guide. Identity is shaped by custodianship, caring for country, maintaining balance, honoring ancestors through ritual and song. Two worlds of silence and mastery. Across Polynesia and Australia, the year 500 is defined by a quiet brilliance, navigation without instruments, memory without writing, sustainable land management without central states, art and ceremony that encode cosmology in living form. These are civilizations measured not by architecture but by knowledge, deep, precise, and attuned to environments that demand respect and ingenuity. If you stand on a Polynesian beach at dawn, watching navigators prepare their canoes, or beneath an Australian night sky listening to elders recount a creation story older than kingdoms, you feel the same truth. Human brilliance takes many forms. Some rise in stone. Some sail across the horizon. Some sing the world into being. And in the year 500, all are thriving,